Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. These are my Premier League predictions. This is the most anticipated video of the season. I'm looking forward, to say the least, to the Premier League coming back, and it will be back a week on Friday. So I'm starting to look forward to it. I've missed the Premier League, to say the least. But let us get into some predictions. Hang on, let me just get the Premier League table up on my iPad so we can go in alphabetical order, like we did with the rest of the predictions. And let us start off in alphabetical order with AFC Bournemouth. Right, starting off, Bournemouth. Bournemouth, they have, let me just have a look at Premier League signings really quickly. Premier League signings, so I can tell you who clubs have brought in and out, because I don't want to sit here and just talk about the manager and stuff. I want to talk about who clubs have signed. So, Bournemouth have signed, brought in, they've brought in that Hoyson, haven't they? The teenage defender from Juventus, I think. They've also brought in Daniel Jebinson from Sheffield United. They've brought in goalkeeper Paulson. They've signed Unal on a permanent, and also Luis Nistera. Out the door goes players like Kiefer Moore, Joe Rothwell leaves on loan, Darren Randolph, Lloyd Kelly, Ryan Fredericks, Jamal Lowe. What I must say is Bournemouth haven't lost a load of players, and the players who they have lost, they can replace. Bournemouth is a tricky one for me, and I do like Bournemouth. I predicted Bournemouth to go down a few seasons ago. They stayed up. I predicted them to finish in about 17th last season. They finished in mid-table. I've got Bournemouth in mid-table here, just above mid-table. Bournemouth in 9th for me. Share your thoughts, Bournemouth fans. Next up then, and we go and have a look at Arsenal. Arsenal are a tricky one for me, because they haven't done much business, to be fair. Out the door goes Emile Smith-Rowe, and Mohamed El Neni, Cedric Soares. In comes Calafiori, a good piece of business there, and David Raya. A couple of other players going out on loan, for instance, Sambi Lokonga and Nuno Tavares. But for Arsenal, I think you've got to look at Arsenal and think that they're going to be up there again, challenging. Arsenal I've got in 2nd place. Share your thoughts, Arsenal fans. Next up then, Aston Villa. Aston Villa are a tricky one for me. Now, they've signed a few good players. They've done business, actually. Let me just go through a few of their signings and departures. Please, could I just say, I really didn't realise that they still have Felipe Coutinho on their books. Hang on. Oh my God. Oh my God. Is Felipe Coutinho still on their books? Sorry about this. Felipe Coutinho. Oh my God. He's still at Villa. He's on loan at a Serie A club called Vasco da Gama, on loan from Villa. I didn't even realise that he was still on Aston Villa's books. But it just goes to show that it's tricky to get rid of players when they're on high wages and high demand. Talking about players, out goes Morgan Sanson, Tim Irobenham, Douglas Luiz, also Musa Diaby. In comes a few players: Illing Jr., Ross Barkley, Cameron Archer, Amadou Onana, Jadon Philogene, Ian Matson, Lewis Dobbin and Brentford as well. And I think you've got to look at Villa and think Champions League has got to be the aim again. I've got them in my Champions League places as well. Aston Villa 4th, share your thoughts. Next up then we go across to Brentford. Now Brentford had a tough season last season. Scraping survival by the skin of their teeth. What they need is to progress on last season. Now, they haven't been busy in the transfer window, if I'm being honest. As I say, out goes David Raya, Thomas Strakosha, Baptiste, Gahodos, Charlie Good, a few other players. In comes Igor Thiago. Now the lad is, I think he's in his late 20s, but apparently he's out for a few months with an injury, which does concern me. Now they've got Ivan Toney still. If they keep Ivan Toney, then I think they will be a solid mid-table 13th, and that's if they keep Ivan Toney. If Toney ends up leaving, then this prediction could change. Next up then we go to Brighton. Brighton have a new manager, Fabian Herzler, the youngest manager in the Premier League. Now maybe it might take a bit of time to gel for him. Brighton incomings, well, they've signed players like Yankuba Minter, Matt Weifer. Out the door goes Pascal Gross, Adam Lallana, Stephen Alzate. But as for Brighton, I think it's a transitional season, especially with the new manager coming in. He's never managed in the Premier League. He's 31. Give him time. I'll go 10th for Brighton. Share your thoughts, Brighton fans. Next up then, we go to Chelsea. Chelsea, again, an interesting one. Now, again, they haven't been as busy as other their past windows under Todd Bowley, but they have brought in a few players. They have brought in players like, they have signed a goalkeeper, Jorgensen. They have signed that Gu from Barcelona, the youngster. They've signed Tosin Adrabayo on a free transfer. And they've also brought in Kiernan Dewsbury Hall. And out the door goes Malang Sarr, Hakim Ziyech, Ian Matson, Thiago Silva, and Conor Gallagher looks like he's on the way out as well. Now, Conor Gallagher will be a huge miss for Chelsea. And looking at Chelsea next season does make me worry about their leadership. With Thiago Silva leaving, maybe they might struggle because they've got quite a few young players, and Conor Gallagher leaving as well. I do remember, if I can remember rightly, he was actually Chelsea's captain a few seasons ago and captained a few of Chelsea's matches. You've got an injury-prone Ben Chilwell still and Reece James, who can be captain, but they don't have the experience, and that makes me worry for Chelsea. They've sacked Pochettino and brought in Enzo Maresca. Chelsea could go in any direction. I'm going for them to drop a few places down the table, down to 8th place. But as I say, Chelsea could finish anywhere. Next up, then, we go to Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace have, they've brought in a few good players. Oliver Glasner is still at the helm. Who have Palace signed? So, out goes Jair Reedswell, James Tompkins, Nathan Ferguson. Michael Olise is the big one. But they have signed a few good players. A few main ones being Chadi Riyad. He is a good player from Barcelona. They've also signed Daichi Kamada and Ismail Assar. The thing that makes me worry about Crystal Palace is Michael Olise and him leaving. How will they get on? I think Palace will be alright. But I'm going to have them to drop a few places down the table into 14th place. Share your thoughts, Crystal Palace fans. Next up, Everton. Now, Everton can talk. For us, we have signed, we've let go of players like Andre Gomez, Lewis Dobbin, Amadou Onana, and we've brought in a few players as well. Timmy Robenham, as I mentioned, from Aston Villa. We've also brought in Jack Harrison back from his loan. He had a good loan there. We signed Iliman Ndiaye. We've also signed Jasper Lindstrom on loan, and also Jake O'Brien, the defender from Lyon. I think Everton have got to look to improve going into the new stadium. Now, as an out there shout, wouldn't surprise me if we get Europe and us to play Europe in the third stadium in the third season in the new stadium. But as a realistic prediction, I'm going to go 12th for now. Share your thoughts, Everton fans. Fulham now, they have signed, they've let go of João Palhinha, haven't they? And that makes me worry again. One player carrying the team, especially in midfield. They've also let go of players like Tosin Adarabioyo and Terence Condola, Mark Rodak. In comes Ryan Sessegnon, Emile Smith-Rowe, and Jorge Consa. I don't know how you pronounce his name. I could be butchering up his name or something, but Fulham is an interesting one for me. I think they'll drop down the table a few places, down to 16th, just because João Palhinha has left. I don't know how they'll do. Next up, Ipswich Town. Now, these are new, aren't they? I don't know. Well, out goes a few players like Hayden Jackson, Dominic Ball. Never heard of them players. The goalkeeper, Hlagdi, has left. In comes Amari Hutchinson, Ben Johnson, Jacob Greaves, Liam Delap, Orient Muric, and Connor Townsend. Ipswich Town, I think they'll stay up. 17th place for me for Ipswich. Next up then, Leicester City. Leicester City are an interesting one. Leicester have, they have struggled and especially with a points deduction possibly on the horizon. I'm not here predicting points deductions, but I think they might get a points deduction. And out the door goes Kiernan Dewsbury Hall. They have signed Abdul Fattah on a permanent, and they have signed Bobby Deacor, David Reed, but they've let go, as I say, of Dewsbury Hall, Dennis Pratt, Ian Acho, Marco Brighton, and I worry for Leicester City. That's why I've got them in 19th place. Sorry, in 18th place. Share your thoughts, Leicester City fans. Next up then, Liverpool. No one in. Few players out. Joe Matip, Thiago Alcantara. Arne Slot is the manager. That makes me worry for Liverpool because I don't know what Arne Slot is all about. If Jurgen Klopp was manager, I would have no reason not to put Liverpool in my top 3. But as for now, 5th place. Share your thoughts, Liverpool fans. Next up then, Manchester City. They've sold Sergio Gomez and Liam Delap. In comes Savino. What do I think about City then? I think a huge points deduction will come in. I think the FFP hearing will be in the autumn, and I think Manchester City will go down on minus points, bottom of the table. Share your thoughts, Manchester City fans. Obviously, I'm joking about this because I have Manchester City top of the league because I'd be a complete and utter idiot. No, I do not think a points deduction will come into play this season. I know there's a hearing in the autumn, but we'll just have to wait and see about Manchester City. First place for them. Next up, Manchester United then they have signed Joshua Zirkzee and Lenny Yoro. Out the door goes Mason Greenwood, Rafael Varane, Anthony Martial, Brandon Williams, Donny van der Beek. Manchester United are an interesting one. They certainly have to improve, and under Erik ten Hag, I think they might improve a few positions. I've got Man United in 6th place. Share your thoughts, Man United fans. Next up then, we have Newcastle United. Now, they haven't been active, if I'm being honest. In comes Lewis Hall and Lloyd Kelly and a couple of goalkeepers. Out goes Paul Dummett, Matt Ritchie, Luis Karius, Jeff Hendrick, Elliot Anderson. And Newcastle, I do expect them to splash the cash at some point this window. Especially with the money backing, the Saudi money backing. I predicted them to get in my top 4 last season, and I'm going to do it again. 3rd place for Newcastle United. And that is all of my top 4 taken up. Share your thoughts, Newcastle United fans. Next up is Nottingham Forest. Out the door goes Felipe, Czech Kouyaté, Wayne Hennessy, Scott McKenna, a couple of goalkeepers, Orel Mangala, Niakate. In comes Jota Silva, Milenkovic, and Elliot Anderson, Stamenkic, and I think Nottingham Forest. I struggle to see how Nottingham Forest stay up because they haven't got that Premier League experience. They've only been in the Premier League for 2 seasons. And when you've been finishing above the drop for 2 seasons, and when you're on 35 points last season, forget points deductions, you're going to end up dropping. If it wasn't for Luton being shite last season, let's be honest, then Forest would have got relegated. I've got Forest bottom of the league. I'm sorry, Nottingham Forest fans, but just share your thoughts. Southampton now, they have let go of a few players like Stuart Armstrong. They have also sold Lianco. In comes a few players like Adam Lallana, Taylor Howard-Bellis, Charlie Taylor, Ronnie Edwards, Flynn Downs, Ben Brereton Diaz, and I think Southampton can give it a go, but how long would it take for Russell Martin to implement his style of play in the Premier League? Because I know he will like to attack games, and if you go into the Premier League and want to play attacking, just coming up from the Premier League, then you will get bitten in the arse. We've seen it happen to Burnley last season under Vincent Kompany. I've got Southampton in 19th place. Share your thoughts, Saints fans. Next up, Tottenham Hotspur. In comes Timo Werner on loan. They've also brought in Archie Gray. Out goes a few players like Eric Dyer, Ivan Perisic, Ryan Sessegnon, Japhet Tanganga, Joe Rodon, Troy Parrott. Højbjerg leaves on loan. Also Brian Gill. I think Spurs are in a tricky one under Postecoglou. I think they might drop off a bit, especially with Europe. I don't know how many eggs they'll throw into the European basket. But I'm going to put Spurs in 7th place for now. Share your thoughts, Tottenham Hotspur fans. Next up, West Ham United. As I say, out the door goes Carrere Ogbonna, Ben Johnson, Said Benrahma, Flynn Downs. Now, they've signed a few good players as well. In comes Wes Foderingham, the goalkeeper from Sheffield United, Max Kilman from Wolves, Sorencio Somerville, the player of the season in the Championship last season, and also Nicholas Fulkrug, another striker, to add to their ranks. I certainly do think that West Ham need to sell a few players to buy. Danny Ings needs to leave. I don't think Danny Ings will stay at West Ham for much longer. As for West Ham, though, I'll have to go solid mid-table for me. I'll go 11th place. Finally, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now they've lost Max Kilman, but they've signed Tommy Doyle on a permanent, Rodrigo Gomez, Larson, and Wolves are an interesting one. I had them to go down last season, and that certainly was a stinker. I'm going to back Wolves to stay up this season. I think they might drop down the table a couple of places. I've moved them down to 15th. Share your thoughts, and I will be back next week with the weekly Premier League, Championship, League 1 and League 2 predictions. Really quickly, this is a predictions video. Please do not get offended by my predictions. Feel free to leave your predictions in the comments. I will have a look at them and I will speak to you in the next one. See you in a bit.